Hello, Thyroid Thrivers, and welcome back to another episode of the Thyroid-Healthy Bites podcast, with bi-weekly episodes dedicated to helping you eat well, live well, and feel well. I'm Ginny Mahar, a functional medicine health coach, cordon bleu chef, and your thyroid health and cooking coach. So if you're ready to get inspired, informed, and empowered with thyroid-friendly food and lifestyle topics, expert interviews, and tales from the healing journey, you're in the right place, friend. Let's dig in. Hello, friends and fellow Thyroid Thrivers. Welcome back to Thyroid Healthy Bites. Happy New Year. I hope things are going well for you so far this year. So today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I wanted to create like a companion episode to my upcoming Thyroid30 cookbook. So we're going to go behind the scenes, behind the curtain a bit of the Thyroid30 way of living and thriving. So just in case you missed it, I do have a cookbook coming out. This drops February 3rd. It's the Thyroid30 cookbook, 3 30-day meal plans, and 100 delicious recipes to restore your energy and help you thrive. And it isn't just recipes. The whole, practically first half of the book is a lot of information on the Thyroid30 system. So this is a whole health, whole life system to help restore your energy, help you thrive, and to help incorporate a lot of these food and lifestyle changes that we hear about from our doctors, that we hear about from our favorite health and wellness influencers, our favorite nutritionists and health coaches and doctors and dietitians, and all the people saying that, those common core recommendations, right? And the thing with all that is that there's a distance between knowing what to do and actually applying it in real life where the results happen. It isn't just about knowing what to do, it's how do we do it. And so really that's why I created Thyroid30 back in 2017. This isn't new, the cookbook is new, but Thyroid30 has been around for quite a while. It's helped thousands of other thyroid thrivers reclaim their health and thrive, including me and including so many people that I've worked with. So we're going to dive into that a little bit today. Before we do, I do also want to mention that right now, while the book is kind of leading up to that launch date of the official drop or release date of February 3rd, we are in the pre-order phase. So right now I have a special pre-order bonus available. If you would like to go ahead and order the Thyroid30 cookbook, you can do so at hypothyroidchef.com/cookbook. You can take a peek inside the book, learn more about what it's about, and also you can claim my pre-order bonus there. So this is my simple meal prep staples recipe guide and cook-along video workshop that comes for free when you pre-order the book. So there's a simple little form on that cookbook page where you can claim that free bonus gift if you decide to pre-order. So I wanted to make sure right at the outset of today's show that you knew about that pre-order bonus because it is kind of time sensitive. I'm recording this on January 14th and the book drops, as I mentioned, on February 3rd. So we've got just really a couple more weeks to pre-order and claim that pre-order bonus at hypothyroidchef.com/cookbook. So here's what I've been noticing in my online community, my socials, that really kind of inspired today's episode. I hear from a lot of women they're doing so many of the right things, right? But they don't feel like it's enough. They feel alone in it. Maybe they feel like they're just not getting the results they want. They're going in so many different directions. They have all these different inputs, right? There's so much noise out there about this. A lot of times they're getting conflicting information about certain foods. I just had a question the other day about oats. Are oats good or bad? And all these things that we come up against when we are wanting to harness the power of thyroid-friendly food and lifestyle. It can be really, really kind of just mentally draining. We can start to wonder, am I ever going to get where I want to go? And I don't want that for you because what can happen if we don't get the help and support and tools and the system we need, the framework we need to kind of simplify this, to answer that question of not just what do I need to do, but how do I actually do it? What can happen is it can undermine our whole healing journey. It can undermine the progress that we're making. It can undermine our own trust in our ability to be healthy, to do the things that keep us feeling good, right? So it's easy to get caught in the middle of a lot of like controversy that's being stirred on social media because it's what gets eyeballs. It's easy to get caught in the middle of like extreme dieting that just feels impossible to sustain. Maybe we were able to make some headway with something like an elimination diet, but we haven't been able to like get to the very important and essential reintroduction phase of that. And some of us might even be stuck in that place of just, getting that conventional advice that basically just says, take your pill and deal with it. Your TSH is normal, so anything else you're dealing with is unrelated or all in your head, right? I get it. I have been there. I have lived this. I'm right there beside you on this path, and I want you to know that you're not alone. And also, I want you to know that I know what it's like to want so badly to feel better that you are willing to try anything. So, but here's the thing, when we get caught up in like those extremes, when we get caught up in like over saturating ourselves in information and inputs, it doesn't work. It doesn't work long term. It doesn't work for anyone. And also, I'll say, when we get caught up in extreme approaches, that also doesn't really work. Restriction does not necessarily equal results. What really equals results is consistency. Consistency with those healthy basics that you hear from trusted experts who are looking at the evidence, right? These things for which there are mountains and mountains of evidence. Things like cooking whole food meals, avoiding processed foods, moving your body regularly, prioritizing gut health, things like prioritizing our sleep and sleep hygiene, things like getting the support we need, finding a support system, especially if we're living with chronic illness like hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, finding a support system of people who get it and who can remind us we're not alone on this path. There is hope. There are people making progress. There is a path, like there is a path to thrive, and I am on it. That's actually a word for word quote from one of my Thrivers Club members when she found her way there. And she said, I finally understand that there is a path to thrive. Not only is there a path, but I am on that path. So that's what I want for you. Today, I want to introduce you to a way of eating and living that can actually help restore your life instead of overwhelming you, instead of shrinking it down, instead of being hyper focused on restriction or weight loss or toxic diet culture, all the things, right, that can kind of just be like a distraction from truly healing, I guess is what it comes down to, from truly thriving, from truly finding that path that is sustainable. Because if we can't stick with it, we're not going to get results. We're not going to be able to maintain results. Right? So that's what I want to help you find. It's called Thyroid 30. And this is the heart of my upcoming cookbook. So that's what I'm going to be doing today is introducing you to Thyroid 30. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of Thyroid 30, I'd love to just talk for a minute about why we get stuck in this cycle of like doing more and not getting where we want to go, sometimes even feeling worse. And I think part of it comes down to this issue of extremes. And we're just living in a time of a lot of extremes, right? I think social media has had a huge impact on that. Just media in general, everything. It's just like we've got to come back to ground, right? I remember this time I was probably, gosh, in my late 20s, and I was living in Seattle. I was at the Ballard Farmers Market, and it was this beautiful summer day, and there was a tarot card reader there. And she was like, hey, come sit down, let's chat. And I was like, okay, this sounds fun. And she told me something that has always stuck with me. She was like, I can just tell you are clearly like a spiritual person and you are into like the big ideas, right? You're leaning in, you're curious. At the time I was doing a lot of poetry and personal essay writing, getting really into reading the philosophers and all that stuff. And she was like, it's so great that you have that, but you have to remember to keep your feet on the ground. Because if we just have our head in the clouds with all these like high ideals, but we don't have our feet on the ground, it's hard to actually get where we want to go. It's hard to actually make the impact we want to make. And that stuck with me because it was one of those nuggets of truth that I needed to hear at that point on my life journey. And it's something that has rung true with me still. And I'm almost 50. So it's been like 25 years. I still remember that moment and I still think she was right. And I'm so glad that she brought that message to me. So maybe if you need to hear that message today, this is for you. We've got to come back to basics. We've got to keep our feet on the ground. We have to be discerning in the information that we consume around topics like health and wellness because there's just so much distraction from that that can send us like on a wild goose chase where we not only do we sometimes not get anywhere, sometimes we're actually worse off than we started because what we've done in going down these rabbit holes and things is sometimes what happens is what we end up doing is undermining our trust in our ability to heal, our ability to thrive, our ability to do the things that actually move the needle, our ability to feel our best. So my goal in everything I do is to be a bridge, right? I want to connect you to your body. Sometimes that's like a really big first step people need to take. It's like, am I even paying attention to the feedback that my body's giving me? Am I tuned into that? Am I honoring that? And in the thyroid community, we hear all kinds of things. Don't eat cruciferous vegetables. No, you have to be on AIP. You should never eat something like grains, even gluten-free grains or beans or legumes. Watch out for lectins and phytates. There's all this stuff out there that kind of doesn't really hold up when you start to like really hone in on the nuance and the details of it. When you take things in full context and look more closely at them, it's really kind of a lot simpler than some people online make it out to be. And even with tools like the autoimmune protocol, which I use, I'm a big fan of having that tool in our toolbox, or maybe it's low FODMAP or some other like restrictive diet. There's a lot of talk about those right now. Those approaches absolutely have their place. They are very helpful therapeutic tools, and I think the other part, like the nuance that we're leaning into around those, is that really we have to remember that they are supposed to eventually heal and restore our lives, not just shrink it. The point is not just elimination and restriction. The point is to calm inflammation and heal, and then to eventually reintroduce foods so that we can restore our food freedom, so that we can have more dietary diversity, so that you can live your life again, right? And what those tools do is they're actually stepping stones to helping us discover what is the approach that's right for me. What are the inputs that my body thrives on, right? These are big questions to answer. And they take a little bit of help. They take time, right? We're not going for a quick fix. We're not going for the, 6-minute abs. We're not going for the lose 50 pounds in 3 weeks. We're going for like the long-term sustainable thyroid healthy lifestyle that helps you feel your best, that helps you maybe tame or even reverse some of the symptoms that your thyroid medication has left behind, that helps you feel like you have energy and can enjoy the people and the purposes that you care about. The whole point is being able to live your life again. And the holy grail that we really want to get to is that moment where you look around and realize like this is just what I do now. This is just my lifestyle. It takes time to get there. It takes some tinkering. It takes being your own guinea pig. It takes some knowledge, empowerment, self-education, support, and it takes time, but you can absolutely get there. And a huge part of that is just staying committed to the journey. taking one small step after another, even if that small step is just today, I'm going to read an article from a trusted expert about something I want to learn about in regards to my health. Maybe another day, it's today I went for a walk with my dog instead of my usual, going to the candy stash or the vending machine at work when I got stressed out. Maybe you made a choice to handle that stress in a healthy way versus with some of those more unhealthy coping mechanisms. And what we do is we just commit to the journey. That's really the most important thing is to commit to the journey, to keep coming back to the journey again and again and again. And if you've been listening to me for a while, you've heard me say some of these things before. And, sometimes we do have to really buckle down with our healing. Maybe we do need to spend some time on a more restrictive therapeutic elimination diet like Paleo or AIP. And I think those are done best when we can also do that, weaving in that self-compassion, weaving in maybe less emphasis on perfection and more on progress, right? We're grounding ourselves on our healing journey. We're not just expecting that, 30 days we're going to reverse our diagnosis and go into remission if we just follow someone else's program, right? Instead, we're saying, I know what makes me feel better. I'm committed to learning. Maybe I don't know what makes me feel better, but maybe I'm even just committed to learning what makes me feel better. I'm committed to getting some of the resources that I need in support. Maybe that's medical support. Maybe that's finding new doctors or practitioners to help with things like testing, to explore different root cause factors. Maybe it's things like finding a supportive community, a health coach, resources that inspire you with things like yummy recipes. But we're grounding ourselves on that journey and knowing this is about thriving not just for 30 days or losing X number of pounds so I can weigh a certain amount. It's about really loving my body and having compassion for it so that I can continue to nourish it and feel my best. And we want to wear the whole thing like a loose fitting garment. I always think this is one of my favorite writing quotes. Wear this like a loose fitting garment. Don't get too clenched on your healing journey. Don't get too rigid in your thinking or your approach. There needs to be wiggle room, and so much of it is it's really just a big experiment, isn't it? We are our own guinea pigs. We're coming off the holidays. I think, aren't we all our own guinea pigs during the holidays to see what happens when I have a bunch of extra stress, I eat more sugar than I'm used to, maybe I'm drinking more alcohol that I don't normally drink, maybe I'm eating other foods that I don't normally eat, gluten, dairy, whatever, and we get to see what happens. So, I always say wear this like a loose fitting garment. And the loose fitting garment I like to think of, because I'm a big fan of these, is a caftan, right? Wear this like a caftan, not a straight jacket. And this is how, like, we start to embrace the mindset that helps us ground and come to that long-term, sustainable approach of like thriving. What I see sometimes happen is people might get stuck in that rigidity around restrictive diets. They might get stuck in rigidity around certain ideas that maybe are promoted or taken out of context by certain people online to sell a product or something like that. Whatever it is, we can get sort of like off track. Maybe sometimes people become like wary of things like reintroducing foods. That's really understandable that that happens to people because when we do like say a restrictive diet like AIP and we find that we feel better, we don't want to endanger that. We don't want to lose the gains, right? We don't want to go back to how we were feeling before. So some people might get stuck in that restrictive phase for longer than is really beneficial. And if we get too rigid about our foods and, putting things into good and bad piles, it can actually put our nervous system into this state of constant fight or flight where we're actually like undermining our gut health and digestion, already just from our stress around food or stress around our healthy habits or whatever it is, right? That restriction itself, done too rigidly, not in a grounded way, not in a way of, flexible, we're not in our caftans anymore, that can become a pretty big stressor. And your body doesn't just respond to like the food you eat, it responds to the thoughts you're thinking about the food you eat. It responds to the stress that you're feeling around trying to be perfect. Your body's responding to the maybe chronic anxiety you're feeling about whether or not you're doing it right. That will drive inflammation. The body and mind are connected. Your body hears everything your mind thinks, and they need to feel safe in order to heal. They need to feel safe even in order to shed those unwanted pounds. Your body needs to feel safe in order to truly thrive. And so we've got to find the place that feels like this is an exhale. I trust myself. I trust in my tools and knowledge about how to best care for this magnificent, miraculous body I've been given. And I know what to do, even when, not if, but when those road bumps come up, even when new challenges arise, even if a new diagnosis comes up, I know that I can stay grounded and committed to the healing journey, come back to it again and again, just continue making that choice. Even if I occasionally veer off, it's always there for me, and I am always going to choose my health. I'm going to just continue taking one step after another on that, what I call the thyroid healing journey. So that's really kind of like, I always think it's good to start out with like the mindset talk, right? So this is really like the mindset that we're trying to shift to here. And the thing is, because I specialize in helping thyroid thrivers and am one myself, we got to remember that for those of us with hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, we often are going to have lower resilience. We often are going to have a more narrow path to drive down where there's maybe not as much wiggle room for us as there is for the person sitting next to us. And I know it's not fair. It can be just frustrating as heck. I have been there, I have felt that. It's different for us. We have different needs and challenges. Our bodies are already under like an extra amount of strain, as they often are with chronic illness, with things like autoimmunity. We need a careful, grounded, mindful, gentle approach, right? Not an aggressive one. There's also this reality that, like chronic dieting, I think that's something that runs really rampant in this community because thyroid issues often lead to unwanted excess weight. And we want to get to that like ideal weight. So chronic dieting can start up. We ask our doctors about it. They say, just eat less and exercise more. And when calories are chronically restricted, dieting can actually contribute to hypothyroidism. Your body perceives that it is under threat. It perceives itself as in a famine. And in order to protect you, it's not betraying you, it's not refusing to submit. It is trying to protect you by saying, we're not getting enough. So we're actually going to slow the metabolism down by going into a more hypothyroid state to conserve calories instead of focusing on, thriving or you getting your beach body that you're working so hard for. Instead, we're going to focus on survival because we don't know when this famine is going to be over. You've been not getting enough calories for months at this point. Some women I talk to, it's been years of constant dieting and calorie restriction. And you can really do a number on your metabolism that way. And that really goes against what you're trying to do with hypothyroidism, right? It's often referred to as a cell danger response. The body wants to prioritize that survival. It wants to protect you. So I think that's another like helpful mindset shift here as we sort of start out on today's conversation. And then I'll also add if you're in that perimenopausal or menopausal season of life, this hits even harder. Our resilience is often even lower. Menopause can make hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's worse, and Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism can make menopause symptoms worse. So it has this compounding effect where maybe certain things we have been able to get away with for a long time, certain inputs, certain demands we've put on our body for a long time, like not getting enough sleep and still having this go, go, go lifestyle with no room for self-care and eating a bunch of processed foods and overdoing it on caffeine, all the things, right? Maybe we were able to get away with that, but perimenopause, menopause, plus hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, you're probably going to hit a wall with that. It has this compounding effect. Our resilience goes down, things shift. We've got to really kind of relearn our bodies and relearn like those common core basic healthy habits become even more absolutely essential to you feeling well enough to like even function. So what we end up with, when those things are at play, is thyroid thrivers who are trying so hard to heal. They're following all the rules, they're taking all the supplements, maybe they're avoiding all the bad foods, or they're just like overwhelmed with information. They're going this way and that way. They're, following all these experts. They're completely oversaturating their brains with too much information to the point that they don't know what direction to go in. We end up with nervous systems in overdrive where metabolism is tanked, we're more exhausted than ever, we're not getting anywhere, and that trust in ourselves has kind of been diminished. So it really requires that fundamental mindset shift from I'm going to force my body into submission to what does my body need? What is it asking for? How can I nourish myself? It really comes down to this essential embrace of ourselves, self-love and compassion versus aggression towards the body. And this is why we need a different approach, a whole different like cultural paradigm, a different thought paradigm, a different paradigm that can help protect us from some of the like wild and crazy inputs that we are bombarded with constantly through media, our phones, our devices, all that stuff, right? We need a middle path. That's what Thyroid 30 is. So let's talk about it. So Thyroid 30 is a whole food, whole health system that I created specifically for thyroid thrivers. It is a reset. It's designed to help you restore and rebuild your relationship with food and lifestyle habits and how they affect your body. It's not just a diet. It's not about restriction or deprivation. It's not a magical fix or a 30-day quick fix where you just white knuckle your way through someone else's programs and recommendations and then go back to your old habits. This is about you building and enhancing that relationship with yourself between, bringing the body to the mind, listening to the feedback your body is giving you, learning to honor it, learning to value yourself enough to give yourself the best inputs so that you can get the best outputs. Really, I think of it as like a nourishment framework. It's about learning what your body actually needs to thrive. And then when you connect those dots, when you get to experience that as your own guinea pig, it becomes a lot more sustainable. It helps us build those sustainable habits around that. And it also gives us this framework that we can use to just brick by brick continue building that house of wellness. It doesn't happen overnight. Like I said, it's not a 30-day quick fix. It's something that we come back to again and again. And Thyroid 30, this is one of our signature wellness challenges inside the Thrivers Club. It is the signature wellness challenge there. We're doing it right now to kick off January. We'll be doing it most of the year in 2026 because it works, because it gives us that system and that framework where we can build that awareness, where we can start that dialogue with ourselves. And little by little, piece by piece, we can start to kind of learn like, okay, what are the foods that work for me? What are the foods that don't work for me? What are the habits that help me feel my best and that really move the needle? And what, maybe can I set to the wayside? It's that middle path where it's really about sustainable nourishment. And the foundation of Thyroid 30 is what I call the 8 daily rituals, or the 8 R's of thyroid healthy living. These are simple, common core practices that really I gleaned from the leading thyroid experts out there. It was like, when I started out on this journey, I was reading all these books and I was like, they're all like making so many of the same recommendations. I wish there was a system for this. I wish that there was a way to like make this simple and more fun to actually like start living this way and making some of these changes in a way that felt more doable, that brought in some support, brought in a little bit of accountability, just helped me, understand like what areas am I strong in and what areas do I maybe need to put a little bit of extra attention and intention into. And then I like just had this lightning bolt moment one day in the shower where I realized I can just totally see this whole system and I can create it. I want this system. I at the time it was, 2017 when I was building this, and I didn't have that for me. And I was trying to make these changes and I was fumbling through it alone. I was trying to do it in other communities. I ended up in like this CrossFit community, and it was really helpful and great and so good to have support, but it was like, these aren't my people. Like, they don't understand what it means to live with Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism. I can't push this way. I can't, there's different like factors here. And I feel like, there's some food things I need to figure out. So how does that all factor in? So that's where the initial spark for Thyroid 30 came from. In 2017, I worked with my former business partner, Dana Bowman, to like conceptualize and talk through. And she's a fellow thyroid thriver. And she was like, oh my gosh, we have to do this. Like, you are building this. I still use the exact same system years later in the Thrivers Club as our signature wellness adventure because it works and it's identical to basically what we originally created. So let's do a quick walkthrough of those 8 daily rituals of thyroid healthy living. So the first R is remember. Remembering to take your thyroid medications and supplements and doing that consistently. This one's going to be a gimme for a lot of people, right? Sounds super basic, but it is foundational. And for some people, it's a real sticking point, right? It can be tricky for some people to just have that like everyday routine of taking your thyroid meds at the same time on an empty stomach at whatever time you choose to take them at. It makes a real difference in how you feel and in your lab results. And this is also great if any of you are on supplements that your doctor or practitioner has recommended, to just, did I remember my supplements today? What can I do to give myself like better tools or more of a system to remember to take those if I'm not taking them? So that's the first R, is remember to take your thyroid medications and supplements consistently. The second R is refuel. So this is like the biggest one in terms of points. You get the most points for refuel. All the other R's in Thyroid 30, you earn 1 point a day, whereas refuel, you get 3 points, which gives you some wiggle room. But it's really about sticking to the food and drink that your body thrives on, because there's no one size fits all thyroid diet, right? If you've been here with me a while, you know this. It really is about anti-inflammatory eating. It's about eating real whole foods, and it's about taking a personalized approach. And we can use certain templates like gluten-free, dairy-free, paleo, or AIP to help us in that process of discovering what my unique dietary needs and sensitivities are. But that is the long-term goal, is that personalization and understanding what food and drink does my body thrive on, what doesn't it, and then choosing the stuff that it thrives on. So it's really more about nourishment and giving your body what it needs versus restriction. It's about choosing foods that support your energy, that reduce inflammation, that help you heal, whether that's, whether whatever that looks like for you. The third R is reactivate. So this is about exercise, moving your body regularly in a way that's supportive. Movement is going to support your energy, your mood, your metabolism, your resilience. It's so important for everyone. It is definitely extra super important for thyroid thrivers. We got to move our bodies. It's going to help so much. But here's the catch. For thyroid patients, we sometimes have that lower resilience. We sometimes have that more narrow road to go down. More is not always better. Cortisol can come into play, the adrenals can get, and cortisol can get too high and like sort of undermine our goals here if we're overdoing it with certain types of exercise. So, if you feel wiped out after a workout, if you feel like you have to take a nap an hour or two after a workout, if you feel even wiped out for days after a workout, or like, gosh, I keep I want to be consistent with exercise, but every time I try, I just like feel so much worse and then I have to start over, or I feel like I'm even getting sick or a bunch of my symptoms are flaring up. We can go into exercise induced autoimmune flares. All those things might be signs that your body is asking you, giving you that feedback to maybe take a gentler approach, even if it just means starting slower and working your way up more gradually, right? The goal is to find your exercise sweet spot with movement that energizes you rather than depletes you. So that's reactivate, moving your body regularly. The fourth R is repair. So this is about making daily choices to nurture your gut health, doing one small thing per day, at least, to nurture and nourish and maintain your gut health, because your gut and your thyroid are deeply connected. About 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. And for those of us with Hashimoto's, healing the gut is often a really essential piece of the puzzle. So this might mean removing foods that you're sensitive to, at least temporarily, while you heal the gut. It might mean adding more probiotic rich foods, or maybe you're working with your practitioner on some targeted gut healing supplements that are right for you and your unique situation. Maybe it means incorporating gut healing foods that are high in things like glycine or collagen, like bone broth. Maybe it means eating lots of fiber from colorful plant foods or even things with like resistant starch to really support and feed a healthy microbiome. So that's the fourth R, repair, making choices daily that nurture and nourish your gut health. The fifth R is rejuvenate. This is such a favorite in the Thrivers Club, and one that I think is really underestimated for how incredibly powerful it can be. Daily self-care and stress management. So self-care isn't just about bubble baths and manicures and things like that. I'm talking about the things that actually help you effectively manage stress. Because chronic stress, living in that state of chronically elevated cortisol, chronic high stress, will disrupt your thyroid, all your hormones, your adrenals, your sleep, your energy. But self-care, it doesn't have to be elaborate, it can be really simple. And just 10 minutes a day of something like breath work, maybe going for a walk outside, maybe having some quiet time with a cup of tea or listening to some of your favorite music. I love meditation, adult coloring books. People in my Thrivers Club community might do things like singing for self-care. Breath work is another really important one in there. Even restorative movement. Even one deep breath a day can make a huge difference in how you feel. So that rejuvenate aspect of Thyroid 30 is super important. The sixth R is reduce. So this is about reducing our exposure to environmental toxins, because things like pesticides, plastics, endocrine disrupting chemicals have been linked to thyroid dysfunction. And what we're going for here, again, we're not wearing this like a straitjacket, but a caftan, right? We're talking about small shifts, small but powerful shifts, like swapping out plastic food storage containers for glass containers, filtering your water, ditching highly fragranced products, which are incredibly toxic, supporting your body's natural detox pathways with healthy whole foods, things like artichokes, beets, blueberries, cilantro, turmeric, all of those can help support our body's built-in detox pathways. This is not about any kind of extreme detox or detox in a box products that can often, frankly, do more harm than good. This is really about just, becoming more aware of your toxin exposure and figuring out how can I dial this down so that I'm not adding that, like I'm not piling on this extra stressor to my body and my system. The seventh R is relish. So this one is really about celebrating your wins and connecting with support. Support, I'll say it over and over again. This is probably the most overlooked needle mover on the healing journey. I hear it all the time in my Thrivers Club community. I had no idea how powerful it was going to be in a community with other people that get it. So, finding a support system, whether that's a community like the Thrivers Club, whether that's doing the legwork to find a practitioner you can work with, whether that's talking with your partner or maybe a therapist, different online communities, as long as it's like a positive, healing focused community. Also, this is about celebrating your small wins to help hardwire those healthy choices into your brain. This is behavioral neuroscience, it's not fluff, but those tiny celebrations like high-fiving yourself in the mirror, fist pump, even just silently saying to yourself, good job, you did that, you got that walk in. Way to go, getting the groceries today to make those healthy home cooked meals. Maybe it's about finding, that support community that gets what you're going through. That can change everything. So, celebrating your wins, connecting with support. That's the seventh R, which is relish. And last but not least, the eighth R is recharge. So, this is about prioritizing sleep and sleep hygiene. Sleep is so foundational to how we feel. I think we all understand this a little bit better now, at least hopefully we do. I know there's been a lot more talk and information out there about this, but sleep impacts our hormones, inflammation, brain fog, cognition, appetite, metabolism, our weight, so many things. And so it really like all these other things can help get good sleep, like getting daily exercise, having good gut health, eating nourishing meals with, plenty of like your balanced macros and things like that. The self-care is a huge thing. All those things can help support sleep, but sleep is also really going to support all the other things. It's going to help you feel so much better if you can focus on and prioritize good sleep hygiene so that you can get more and better quality sleep. And if you're skipping sleep, you are skipping healing. During sleep that your thyroid hormones are produced, they convert, your brain detoxifies, your body heals. So much is going on while you're sleeping inside, this miraculous system, right? So much that contributes to what we call homeostasis or that state of balance in the body. So that's the last of the eight daily rituals is recharge, sleep, and they're not complicated, but they are powerful. And all of them combined, they're the good inputs to get the good outputs. They're the things that can help us, give our bodies the support that they need to achieve and maintain that state of homeostasis or balance in the body. And when you do them consistently, you're going to feel it because things shift. You start to feel like yourself again, and you start to get attached to that feeling, and you start to get empowered with all that you can do to maintain, elevate, and optimize your health. We don't have total control over our health. And I say that because I want you to know that when problems arise, maybe a new diagnosis or something, it's really easy to blame ourselves and to think, I must have done it wrong. I must have not done enough. This must be my fault. Things happen, right? There are genetics, there are other inputs, there are exposures, there's all kinds of things that are out of our control. But we also have these things that are in our control that we can use, that we can embrace, that we can leverage to feel our best and to make those road bumps maybe a little bit less bumpy, to help ourselves bounce back. when we've gotten off track, like at the holidays. So that's what this is about. It's not about perfection or control. I don't want us to get into that rigid clinging of if I just do this perfectly every single day all the time, then I'll never get sick. I'll never have health issues. There's just no guarantee like that, right? So don't beat up on yourself if things arise, but you will feel better. You will connect those dots. It's pretty hard and valuable evidence when we get a good night's sleep and see how we feel the next day. Not just how our brain works, but even like how much easier it is to make healthy choices around food. It's pretty hard evidence to see like, wow, I started the day with a healthy, savory breakfast with plenty of protein, colorful plant foods, healthy fats. I was cruising through the morning. Follow that with a healthy lunch, a healthy dinner. Maybe now I'm avoiding, all the snacks, the trip to the vending machine, the candy bars, the things that we end up eating when we're actually trying to like skip meals and stuff. Oftentimes, you're going to see like I feel so much better. My energy was steadier. I slept better. I feel more nourished. That's really valuable personal data. And that's so much of what Thyroid 30 and those 8 daily rituals help us do is collect that personal data. As we collect that body of evidence for ourselves, right? We're our own guinea pigs, we're good scientists on this journey, right? And we're collecting that information. We start to tap into that innate drive and innate motivation where I can't imagine making a different choice because I know exactly what this other choice is going to make me feel. And I don't want that. Alcohol is just popping up in my mind. Also, sugar, two things that I know very well at this point do not support my body. And well, yeah, I may choose to indulge in those things from time to time because I'm in my caftan, right? I also do so knowing what it's going to do to me. And I also do so with a really well-stocked toolkit of how to recover from that, how to support my body in bouncing back when I accidentally or even intentionally maybe go off the rails a little bit, right? So that's normal. That's a normal part of the process. Even when we stray, it's not failure. It's more information. It's more data. It's an opportunity to see what did that mean for me when I got off of my usual healthy routines over the holidays? And then not only that, it's also a choice point. It's an opportunity to come back again and say, I choose my health again, not in an extreme way, not in a way where my head is just in the clouds and I'm not grounded, not in a way that is too rigid and confining, but in just a real world, I can do this every day and this feels good and I'm empowered and I got this kind of way, right? Is that sort of coming together for you? So it's not about perfection. It's not about doing everything flawlessly. It's about consistency and just showing up for yourself day after day in those small, doable ways. And here's what's going to change over time when you do that. Your energy becomes more stable. You're not swinging between wired and exhausted anymore. Your digestion improves. The bloating, the constipation, the discomfort, that can start to ease. Your mood lifts. Your mental health is better. You're not as irritable or maybe anxious or depressed. Those things run rampant in the thyroid community. We are more prone to things like anxiety and depression. How about brain fog? That starts to clear. You can think clearly again. You can remember things. You have clarity. And most importantly, you can start to trust your body again and start trusting yourself as the caretaker of that body, the committed, devoted, loving caretaker of that body. You stop seeing your body as the enemy, as something that is failing and betraying you, and start seeing it as your partner in healing. So that's what Thyroid 30 gives you. It's not just physical healing, it's really a fundamental shift in how you relate to yourself. And it was very intentional in how we created that with Thyroid 30. And it's also what I get to see every day in the Thrivers Club happening, where people say, I just, I've gone my whole life and not really understood so much of these things about myself. And yet here I am learning so much about how I thrive. How uplifting, how empowering. That is information that nobody can take away from you. And it comes from this Thyroid 30 system. See, I know this because this story is my story too. And I went through what a lot of you also went through. This isn't super unique, but I really suffered needlessly. For 4 years, I was sick and tired every day. After my initial hypothyroidism diagnosis, I had no idea I actually had Hashimoto's because I was never tested. And I'd wait for these annual appointments. I got tested once a year, my TSH, and I'd wait and wait for these appointments because it was like, I just don't feel like myself. I'm tired all day, every day. I'm sick all the time. I'm not thriving, and would just be told, it has nothing to do with your thyroid because your TSH is normal and food and lifestyle won't make a difference. What is unique about my story is that I went through this as a chef. So when I finally hit rock bottom with that, started looking for better answers, got a better doctor, and actually reclaimed my health, it was so empowering. I always think of this moment when and I talk about this in the opening of the book, when my naturopath first taught me about anti-inflammatory eating, and it felt like somebody handed me the keys to my healing journey. But along with that came this overwhelming wave of grief because I'm a chef, I'm a food lover. I've been cooking since I was tall enough to reach the stove. It's all I've ever wanted to do was cook and write about cooking and food. And because I think food should be creative. And it was like someone suddenly wiped away all these colors on my artist palette. And I had to work within a much more, um, a different set of limitations, right? And it was not easy for me. I didn't create this because it was easy for me or I'm just good at it. I created this for you because it was really hard for me. And I know what that's like to feel like, how can I do this? I don't want to live with these restrictions. It's frustrating to even get to a point where you're ready to maybe start reintroductions and they don't go well. And you realize, my body's telling me loud and clear, this is not right for me. And I don't want that to be true, with things like gluten or dairy or whatever it is, right? I know some of you know what I'm talking about, and also to bring this other level of complexity to food. Food should be joyful, it should be connective, it should be more than just medicine. And also, it can kind of become a source of stress when you're like, I don't know what I thrive on and what I don't. And I don't, maybe once I do know that, I don't know how to live with these restrictions. So I know what that's like, and I can tell you that it gets easier with time, and that if you just keep going, you absolutely will get there, and that it's worth it. But that's why I wanted to really help people through that process, to give them a structure, a trellis they could grow on, and put that all in one place, not just the Thyroid 30 system, but also with the recipes. And if it's helpful for you, the meal plans. You don't have to follow the meal plans. They're there for you if that's helpful to you. But it's really about putting the what, the why, and most importantly, the how. How do we do all this? How do we get to, that holy grail of the long-term sustainable thyroid healthy lifestyle that I love and can't imagine doing anything different because it loves me back? How do we get there? So that's why I wrote this book. That's why I created this system. And, also, here's what I see all the time. People get these recommendations from their doctor too, like eat anti-inflammatory foods, manage your stress, get more sleep. But there's that huge distance between those recommendations, between the doctor's appointment and actually applying them in your real life. So that is the gap that Thyroid 30 fills. And now I can finally hand the whole thing over to you inside this book. So the first half is all about thyroid friendly food and lifestyle. what thyroid healthy eating actually means, why it matters, why gut health matters, how do I implement it, where do I start, how do I figure out what's right for me, if I need help, if I need extra testing, how do I get that and who do I get it from, right? All of that is in the first half of the book. In the middle, there's three complete 30-day meal plans. So there's three, I talk about like three levels, right? Not because one is better than the other, but just these are like the stairs. It's like a stair step approach where we're going from least restrictive to most restrictive. And what's right for you is going to depend on your body, where you're at and what you're like ready for. And of course, what your practitioner or doctor is recommending. So, level one, gluten and dairy free. Level two is paleo. Level three is AIP compliant. And of course, the book, underscores and emphasizes that that long-term goal is to get to that personalized dietary approach. So, you, of course, can, take whatever your needs are. And there's lots of modifications offered in the book. All of the recipes are anti-inflammatory. All of them are gluten-free, dairy-free, free of ultra-processed foods, free of refined sugar. The vast majority of them are also paleo with modifications offered, and over a third of them are also AIP compliant. So you've got those three meal plans for those, and over 100 recipes that like fit all those different needs, right? So no matter where you are on this journey, no matter what your needs are, you have a roadmap and you've got resources and options here. And the second half, of course, that's where the fun and yummy stuff is. Over 100 recipes designed to support your thyroid health that taste incredible, that don't take all day to make. This is the same stuff that goes on our family table that I have to feed these crispy chicken and veggie nuggets. My finicky 14-year-old son has to like it too. These are some chili lime shrimp or fish tacos. So all kinds of yummy, just doable, family friendly, delicious recipes in here. I mean, just get it for the recipes, and that alone would be worth it. So once again, it's called the Thyroid30 Cookbook. It officially releases on February 3rd of 2026, but you can pre-order it right now for the next few weeks at hypothyroidchef.com/cookbook. And when you pre-order it, you will get instant free access to that special pre-order bonus gift, which is my simple meal prep staple recipe guide and workshop. So here's what's included with that. It's like a 25-page PDF recipe guide. It's got 25 mix and match proteins, veggie sides, staples, and sauces. All of them are gluten-free, dairy-free. Many are also paleo and AIP compliant so that you can prep once and build those flexible thyroid-friendly meals all week long from those really basic, simple staples. It's like a wonderful companion to what's offered in the book. Second, when you get that pre-order bonus, the Simple Meal Prep Staples recipe guide, that also comes with a 1 hour cook along workshop where I invite you into my kitchen and walk you through and show you how to actually prepare the whole menu. You'll watch me make it in real time and use those like staple options. We do like, a short cooking session on the weekend, make a few staples, and then how do we take those staples to make multiple different meals to keep things interesting and easy and delicious throughout the week. So the goal with this is really to make it easy, make it simple, add a nice complement to the book, and to reduce overwhelm for you. Because meal prep doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to spend hours in the kitchen every Sunday. It doesn't have to take a long time to be delicious. You need it to be doable for you so that you can actually get the results. For the first 100 people who pre-order the Thyroid30 cookbook, you will also be entered to win an 18-piece Pyrex food storage set, because low tox meal prep and food storage is a really good thing. And that also means using things like glass instead of plastic. So once again, you can pre-order at hypothyroidchef.com/cookbook. You can take a look inside the book. You can learn more about what's in the pre-order bonus, and you'll find that form there once you pre-order to come back to that page, You add it's really simple. You add like your name, your email, and your order number, and I will immediately send you and give you access to that Simple Meal Prep Staples recipe guide and workshop. So it's a pretty awesome bonus, and it is available only until February 3rd when the book officially drops. So before we wrap it up today, I just want to leave you with this closing nugget. You don't need another diet. You don't need to do more or be more or try harder or be more perfect at this. You need to just nourish yourself. You need to love and nourish your body. You need rest. You need to feel safe in your body in order to thrive. And healing should not feel like punishment. It shouldn't shrink your life. It should restore it. And that's what Thyroid 30 is all about, the small doable steps, that consistent loving effort, building that house of wellness brick by brick by brick, not all at once, because your body wants to thrive. It is always striving for that state of homeostasis, for balance, for health. And when you give it good inputs, good food, good rest, good support, all those healthy basics that are backed by mountains of scientific evidence, you get good outputs. So if you're feeling stuck right now or burned out or like you've tried everything and nothing has worked or you're overwhelmed or you're just over it, I want you to know there is another way. There is a middle path. It's called Thyroid 30, and I'm here to walk you through it. So you can pre-order the Thyroid 30 cookbook at hypothyroidchef.com/cookbook. I can't wait to get this into your hands to see what shifts for you. All right. Thanks for being here, friend. See you next time. Thanks so much for spending this time with me and tuning into today's episode of the Thyroid-Healthy Bites podcast. If you've enjoyed today's show, please don't forget to like, subscribe, or leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. Your support makes this show possible. For more thyroid healthy food and lifestyle inspiration, check out my free library of thyroid-friendly recipes and lifestyle content at hypothyroidchef.com and the Hypothyroid Chef YouTube channel. As we wrap it up, head to the show notes for information and links to everything we talked about today, along with the link to my free thyroid-friendly grocery guide download. I'm Ginny Mahar, your thyroid health and cooking coach, wishing you happy cooking, happy thriving, and the best of health. See you next time.